patterns in the organisms, the different layers, and
It's funny, we got so excited with the whale fall that we forgot we started with an octopus.
I know, remember that serried octopus that we had? And the serried octopus they had 4 hours before that?
Yep. Yeah.
And then the mud cliffs.
It seems
Yeah.
days ago almost.
I know a
It
lot
does,
happened
doesn't
on
it?
this
Seems
dive.
so long.
Well, that's the other thing, not only the specimens that OET preserves that
Wild.
could be checked out, but just the ridiculous amount of video, 60 plus hours on this cruise alone, that is going to be available on YouTube in 1 hour segments or can be requested. So geologists can take a look at those mud cliffs, and people who know a lot more than we do about what that might be and the processes it took, they might be interested in, oh my gosh, I haven't seen that in this area before, or that's worth a visit, or maybe we should go back and get some samples, or it can help describe the area, the geologic history of Davidson Seamount.
Yeah, exactly. The processes that led to some of these formations and features. And also why the water's venting where it is venting, because there's quite a bit of that kind of, you know, thick mud that is kind of capping, right?
Yep.
They can't get through there, so it has to find these other areas where you have this rock that's broken and has fissures and cracks and crevasses in it there that can, I like that word, crevasse.
Crevasse.
They really reminded me of crevasses and glaciers.
Glaciers, sure.
So, yeah, no, it was quite a dive. I mean, we had, what, 4 hours? Turnaround on between the two
4
dives?
hours,
Yeah, that was super quick.
Yeah, so since we got on site, we've pretty much, except for 4 hours, been continuously in diving operations. That's pretty great.
Yeah, since, gosh, 11 p.m. 4 days ago.
Correct. We yeah, we were in the water 11 p.m.
What was that, Sunday night?
What
I
are
don't
days?
remember.
What is
I think
time?
it was Sunday night.
The first dive.
I don't even know what
was-
day we're on
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
now, but
Sunday, I think.
First dive was Sunday night, yeah.
yeah.
It's fantastic.
Today is Wednesday, right?
It's Wednesday
It
night
is
now.
Wednesday.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, so.
Late on Wednesday.
So it's been, yeah, you're right. It's been almost 72 hours, and we've crammed in 60 plus hours in 2 dives. Think about that.
Of time on the seafloor or in
That's
the water column.
crazy. We've been almost on the seafloor the entire time in the last 3 days.
Is there any other vessel where you can do that?
I don't know. Okeanos? How long can
They
they?
actually only dive during the day.
Yeah. they
Oh,
only
that's
do
right.
daytime
Yeah.
ops.
They're daytime.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mbari's daytime. So, wow. Yeah.
It's
Pretty cool. The Atlantis sub can, or the Alvin on the Atlantis can only do, you know, human operations in the daytime.
And with only daytime operations, you lose all that up and down time each day.
That's
mean-
what makes it inefficient.
You mean
Yeah.
the blue water like we're
Yeah.
experiencing right
Yeah.
now?
If you're
Right,
going deep,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, so, Megan, I don't know if you know, but we also have ordered up a whale sighting during blue water because we haven't had enough excitement.
Very
on
kind
this.
of you.
Okay.
Very
Yeah, that
kind.
was.
It was actually Inky's,
Samantha's
it was
might
Inky's
be like
idea.
going
It's Inky's idea.
What
Oh,
a
boy.
generous teammate.
Megan, do you remember what our longest dive is?
I do remember. It actually depends. Depends how you want to measure it. If you want to say longest Hercules Argus dive, that was Ocean Networks Canada, and it was about 73 hours. It was just over 3 days.
Yep.
But longest vehicle deployment off Nautilus was actually passed this year. So the Argus only dives
Right.
on the Search for the Swan Clipper was something, I think they had 84 hours maybe continuously with that towing.
I think it was longer.
Argus.
We crested 100.
Was it 100?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
I don't know. I just know I need to update my fact sheet.
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, it's and we've actually hit 70 a couple of times on ONC.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Which is amazing. I mean, you just get into this rhythm and you sort of end up like waking up on days and you're like, oh, just robots at the ocean. Okay.
Yeah.
Bottom of the ocean. Here we go.
I
Ship-
think for
ship right next
Ocean
door.
Networks Canada, we've also had our shortest dives that were not because of failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Down
go down,
and
Dropping
up.
down in the
complete
Fraser.
the task, and come back.
Bounce dives.
But that is one of the neat parts about you guys were talking about the 24-hour operations is that, you know, ideally we stay down until the job's done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or the mission's complete.
Or the
we're
scientists have
full
filled
on
up the bio
samples.
boxes
Yeah,
so full
yeah, it's
that
like
they are chomping at the bit to get them back.
that has happened where basically we recover, we remove the samples and we go back down to the exact same spot that we left from and continue the dive.
Yep.
So the
Just empty your
endurance,
pockets.
the endurance that you guys maintain is a testament to the maintenance and care that you give your equipment. I mean, it's
A lot of that has improved with the off-season maintenance that they've been doing, that Josh has implemented along with his employees, Trevor and Jay-Z.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really been huge. And from a
I mean, these vehicles are workhorses. They're
Yep.
Hercules is 18 years old this year.
Yeah.
from my perspective, having to kind of piece things together or do a lot more repair at sea.
Yep.
In the past, it's really made for much smoother seasons,
Right.
and it's really
Much
appreciated.
less stressful.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
much
yeah.
less stressful.
I mean, when a job stops because you have a problem, nobody likes it.
Right, and at the same time, you know, like if I'm lead, I have to send people to bed because if we get it fixed, I can't have you tired
Right.
for your watch.
Right.
So that's another added challenge.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Were 0 and 4, do we know if they were picked up and triggered someplace, or were they triggered on the, still in the basket?
No, they were triggered outside.
Okay, yeah, that had to have been Mike.
They were just put back in super nicely.
Oh yeah, they're
Looking
put
at that.
back. They're put back with the pin in the little PVC. So you see that little PVC in the center? Aaron, you want to push in? Yeah. So Mike lined the pin back up on both of those and set it in perfectly. And
A gentleman and a scholar.
yeah, I was saying to Rennie, I was like, those were either triggered in place or Mike took them. That's.
What a professional. I love it.
He's good. He's really good.
He is. He's really, really good. All right,
Well,
Greg.
there isn't a clinker among the bunch.
Yeah.
Tell that to George, who, you know, has it out for me.
You mean George, who's the greatest person on team 8 to 12?
MVP George.
MVP George?
See, I'm just looking up to George because I don't have George on my talk panel, so I can't ever hear George's jokes. I just feel left out. So
I pass them along.
thanks,
listen.
friend.
All right, we're
All right,
back
Greg.
down
People
to
want to know
18.
what's the max speed the ROV has? What's the fastest direction you can go?
There he is.
What's the fastest direction you can go slow?
Thanks, George.
Thanks.
So slow is the answer according to the bridge, but that's because we do go slower than the bridge can go. The fastest direction that we can go is in the horizontal, specifically forward.
Okay.
That's because we are blowing water, and down, actually, we go down very well. Up is difficult because we're actually blowing water into, like down onto some of the sampling equipment. And so we cheat, we run our laterals as well, and that kind of puts the downward thrust of the water, kind of like it offsets it just enough. That's why we were doing 15 to 16 meters a minute when we started our ascent, and we were able to hit up to 22 with that little assist.
Little trick. Very nice.
But yeah, it's still you know, like a walk.
Yeah. I mean, 20 meters a minute. Think about that. It's like one large step, count to 3. One large step, count to 3. So you could outrun this ROV.
Well, you probably couldn't outrun the ROV.
Not in the water, you
Well,
could.
yeah, I was going to say, if we're on land, anybody can outrun the ROV. If we're in the water,
I
you're
listened
not
to
going
a
to be
great news story.
outrunning.
There was somebody interviewing this roboticist, and there was some Hollywood movie coming out with like the humanoid robots taking over the world. Pick, you know, I don't know which one it was. Pick anyone from the genre, and they, you know, in this press tour were like, I know what we'll do. We'll interview a roboticist about, you know, how the technology is coming along. And this person was great. They were just like completely not playing along, you know, and the interview was like, well, what do you think you would do if your robot came to life? Wouldn't that be scary, just like the movie? And the person was like, I would slowly walk away, and then I would walk up one step. And they were like, a robot couldn't handle that. That would pretty much solve the problem. Like, Hercules, you would just have to like go to land.
Yeah.
That problem solved.
Yeah, you'd be fine in a boat too.
Yeah. You'd just be bobbing along, collecting an army of seagulls.
Just sampling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true. So my senior project was a 6-legged walker.
Okay.
Had 18 little motors on it for the legs, and it actually, most of the time it was hanging from the closet in my dorm room, so that way the legs could move without any kind of interference.
Okay.
So for testing motions and things like that. But
So it had like a little swing?
my neighbor, yeah, it was like a little sling for
Somebody goes in your closet and this thing is moving.
No, my neighbor, because I would test it down in the hallways if I had like some of the walking algorithms set. And so one of my neighbors had nightmares of that thing coming in with like razor blades on its hands, and, like chopping at it.
Chopping away.
You know, it was only like 18 inches by like 6 inches. And
Those are the worst kind.
Would you rather fight a whale-sized 100 whale-sized octopus, or one octopus-sized whale, or 100? We're getting these questions.
I mean, an octopus-sized whale. What type of octopus are we talking about?
I don't know.
Because if we were talking about
Does
like
it have razor blades? Like
the octopus that we
topic.
just saw, that would be a really cute little whale.
Would be. Okay, back on topic. I'm sorry.
So you'd get a whale like yay big, right?
100
You keep it in your bathtub.
whale-sized octopus. There's a clear winner. Not that one.
No.
Little tiny cute whale.
Yeah. Never mind. I mixed it up. Okay. What about emergency servicing? People want to know if there is a ballast tank on the ROV that you can blow and come shooting back to the surface. Can you explain how that's different than a submersible?
No, we don't ever have to rush back to the surface. I mean, we have time limits and things, but there's never like a life endangerment situation. So we are positively buoyant, and our worst case scenario is we just shut down power to the vehicle, at which point the vehicle would still float up to the surface, and we'd be able to track it because we have batteries in our USBL, and so we can acoustically trigger that to be in a responder mode instead of a transmit mode. Right now we're electrically triggering it through the vehicle. And USBL is, Rennie, go.
Ultra short baseline. Acoustic positioning.
So you know in a song when you have a bass line, this one is just a very short
Ultra
one.
short, it's BASE. It's not just...
There you go.
Oh, there, you're getting George. George is calling you.
Yeah.
You deserve it.
Yeah. No, Argus is a wonderful anchor. So the question was, is Hercules buoyant enough to pull Argus to the surface? And the answer is no. But the idea is that if the tether got severed for whatever reason, Herc would float. If the 6/8 cable got severed for whatever reason, Argus would...
We would drop a target.
Yeah, we would drop a target and we would go back with some other vehicle to get it.
That would be a bad day.
Because then we know it would stay there.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, but we know it would stay there.
All right, what's the most expensive part of the ROV?
My guess is the octans.
Yeah, probably the octans.
What's the octans?
I don't know. Is the Craft Predator more expensive? No,
I don't
think
well,
so.
a replacement arm would be probably maybe more expensive, but a replacement octans would also be very expensive.
What about the camera?
Well, to get a new camera, to get like a 4K camera would be ridiculously expensive because while they make some 4K cameras, they're not what are considered production quality.
The octans is a gyro compass, to answer your question.
Thanks.
It's a fiber optic gyro compass.
Fiber optic gyro compass.
Boom, 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 boom.
Fiber optic gyro compass, terrible name for a band.
Ultra
don't
short
know.
baselines, though.
That one's pretty good. I actually like that.
Fiber optic gyro compass. I think that would be like the
It's a lot of syllables.
name of the first album maybe.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Fog C.
Anyway, the octans is a combination of fiber that's of a known length that's wrapped in a ring, like a coil on itself. And what happens is that a signal is shot in both directions over an equal distance, and the difference that it takes for that light to travel that distance is measured. And that's constantly being fired and measured and fired and measured. And there are 3 rings in there, one for heading, one for pitch, and one for roll. And so with that, it can actually calculate how you're moving based on that minuscule difference as to how long it took the light to travel the same distance in one direction versus in the other direction. So I mean, that even just sounds expensive when you talk about it.
It sounds impossible, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Not impossible science.
I mean, our cell phones all have internal IMUs. What's inertial
Motion
measurement unit?
Motion.
Something. And it's doing something similar, and those chips are gonna cost pennies or dollars. So a lot of it comes down to accuracy in the harsh condition.
Yeah, being able to withstand the harsh condition, and also not needing to interact with any other thing to calculate it. So
yeah,
I worked with the Remuses, and I forget what their inertial motion unit was, but we had to get a signal, like a confirmation signal from a satellite prior to it actually saying, okay, I know where I am, I'm going to start.
Those are like ballistics grade. I am dead reckoning IMUs, though.
Yeah, we couldn't take it certain
Yeah,
places.
you can't travel. It's difficult to travel with this.
All right. Viewers want to know if there are any 3D printed parts on the ROVs.
Maybe at this moment, yeah. I don't know if the squeezers have any 3D printed stuff in them.
it didn't look like they
Looks
did.
milled.
So a lot of the hobby grade kind of PLA 3D printed parts are printed with a hollow support structure, which would have a lot of challenges at depth that could get crushed pretty easily. But there are, other kind of commercial grade printers that use different materials and can kind of print solid. They cure a liquid resin and can have quite strong specs. So you certainly could have 3D printed components.
I think we've had a few just in terms of sort of like brackets for mounting different instruments we've brought on. Those are the only times I've thought of any. I think we've actually heard that there's anything a science team's brought on.
Sorry, were you talking to the science team?
No.
Oh.
But I mean, you're welcome. You're welcome to join us.
I
like
didn't
this.
he-
I like
I
this
didn't
question.
hear the question.
No, it's all good. Have we ever considered putting wheels on Hercules and driving it around? The vast majority of remotely operated vehicles of this kind, actually, they do have treads. They have tracks. Most of them don't fly like this one does in the midwater.
Water tractor.
Yeah, they're water tractors, right? They're made for inspecting pipeline or laying down inspections or welding underwater, and so they don't need to do the same fine scale things. So there are a lot of, I think it's a misnomer to say there aren't that many ROVs out there. There are tons of remotely operated vehicles in the industry that do all kinds of different things. What there are not a lot of are science specialty remotely operated vehicles like Hercules.
Cecil.
And they are configurable in a way for different science missions, and that's what really makes them special.
Gotcha.
Kind of a transformer in some ways for all the different science tasks we ask of this.
We're in that lull that's supposed to come right before this thing hits, so.
Yeah.
And you can see if you're on a smooth seafloor, tread might be okay, but on the kind of terrain that we were on, there's no way a tread would cut it, and a legged kind of system would be really complex.
Get one of those legs jammed down in a crevasse, and you're like, that's it. This is where your robot lives now, forever.
You could imagine Greg's senior design project on the bottom of Hercules trying to...
Would not have worked.
Yikes. Our ROVs are this configuration, this pair of ROVs can go to 4,000 meters. Hercules is designed for 4,000 meters. Argus, if we change out a couple components, could go a little deeper, but when they're working as a team, obviously Argus has to stay above Hercules, so it's 4,000 meter rated. Our current brand new ROVs, Little Hercules and Atalanta, are a 6,000 meter rated system. Super exciting to have brought those online, and that's going to be one of the big things in our off season. Our operations team will be testing the mobile system off of a different platform. Those ROVs will fly along with control vans, tool vans, and a satellite system to conduct some missions in the Gulf of Mexico. So
can you call Little Hercules new? I mean,
refit.
Refit.
Yeah, refit.
Atalanta's new.
Atalanta is new.
It was bigger, and then we hit it with the shrink ray.
Yeah. Pew pew. Viewers are remembering Wally. Yes, Wally the benthic crawler, it's part of the Ocean Networks Canada Wired Seafloor Observatory. Wally is treaded, and it's in a deep sedimented area, but Wally also gets himself stuck in the sediment, and it can be, months to a year until someone can return and help free Wally.
Free Wally.
Yeah,
that was a movie.
There's a whole movie about it, yeah. He has to go to space, he has to come back.
You had to jump over.
Do you think that was Willie that we saw earlier today?
What are we planning any tech upgrades for Hercules in the next season? Good question. Still to be determined, I think. There's a lot happening with the ship in the off season, in the shore season. In the we are not broadcasting season, we're still playing with names on it. But a couple things. The control vans are going to be refit, so this is our last time broadcasting from inside these modified shipping containers that we are currently sitting inside.
That's the end of an era.
They have seen a lot, been with us for a long time, but they are going to be taken away and transformed. New ones brought in their place, so lots happening there. Stay tuned. We will share updates as soon as possible, and we also will be re-engineing the ship. So big change there, but exciting transformation.
Tell me more. That's not one of the terms that you hear very frequently. Re-engining a ship.
Re-engining a ship, yeah. So stay tuned for more about that. Ship's going to go down to the yard, so we've been into the yard the last couple shore seasons, off seasons, as for the class of ship that we are. There's inspections you have to do every few years, some that you have to do every 5 years to maintain your certifications to do this kind of work. So we'll do we're in the yard for a period last year with a bunch of those inspections, and then this year for a lot of new work and new changes. So we'll keep our audience abreast to those as best we can. Probably be a few months until we have a lot of those updates out there, but know that we will share them with you when we can.
Jelly.
Nice one. Rennie, people want to know if we could be using a sonar to tell if there are animals out beyond our light pool. Could we be doing that?
Not at the moment, because Greg put the sonar facing backwards.
Yeah, that's the right answer. You could. However, the scanning speed and the speed at which we're ascending would probably be pretty prohibitive as far as finding anything. If we were stationary on the seafloor, and we've seen this happen before, where we're chasing some terrain, it turns out it's actually a moving target. We've got fish just outside of the light pool, and we're headed in a direction to try to look for rocks, and then they're not there. So yes, some animals can show up on the sonar, and multi-beam sonar can from the ship facing downwards can be used for identifying biological layers in the water column.
True fact. I mean, fisheries mapping, water column mapping. It's like just having a total renaissance.
You can even watch the diurnal migration of plankton and other biology in the water column, up and down, if you're mapping at the right
Biggest
times.
migration on Earth.
Yeah.
Big enough to stir the surface waters of the ocean. Pretty crazy. Oh, who wants to take this one? How is the ship transmitting live video and audio?
Satellite dish.
Giant golf ball. Nope. We'll start with the ROVs. How are we getting information up from the robots?
Magic.
Erin just shot tea out of her nose. The magic of telepresence.
So all of the data is, except actually the camera data. The camera comes out, the data comes out of the back of the camera as fiber optic already.
Okay.
But everything else is analog or digital, and it then gets converted to a fiber optic signal, which runs from Herc to Argus, and then gets jumpered to the 6/8 cable. And
what is the name of the element on Hercules that converts from analog digital to fiber? Is there
the
something?
prism?
Whoa,
The prism,
big jelly.
and is that in one of the bottles?
Yep.
Is that in the main bottle?
Yep.
The prism is the main bottle. Got it.
And Argus has a newer technology, which is called a focal.
Those are both brand names for the...
I think so, yeah.
No. Okay, just curious.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor.
Anyway, so it gets up to the surface. It actually comes from the winch up to the control vans, and the signal goes to right next to Megan. She's in front of rack 2, and rack 1 is where the signal comes out. It then gets pretty much parsed out and disseminated throughout the ship, throughout the control vans, through the different computers. So then Aaron is in charge of rack 4 and 5, And in rack 4, she can select what video channels are going to be going out. Aaron, how many cameras are there on board? Like how many video sources?
There are 23 video cameras on the board and on the ROVs. Like that's the total together. 7 on Hercules.
And there's what, 40
5 on
some
Argus,
monitors
11
in this?
on the thing. There's a lot of monitors.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
some
If you
Yes.
put, never mind, we're not going down that path. There
So-
could be infinite monitors.
we'll go down that path next.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then Aaron selects what video is going to be sent out, and the video has the audio attached. Aaron can also, I think, change what audio is getting attached. But that all runs 3 decks down into the ship to the rack room built into the data lab. And at which point it goes to I think we're still using Tamberg's, which is another company, but to compress the video and audio, and then it gets run back up to the sat dish, which is actually back up another 3 decks, 4 decks, 3 decks. And up mast, and then it gets transmitted from there to an actual satellite. And I believe we're still coming down in Andover, and then it runs from there to the Inner Space Center, which then no, we're not using the Inner Space Center anymore. Somehow it
Here we
gets
are.
out onto the internet. Are we still using the Inner
Uh-huh.
Space Center? So it goes to Dwight. Dwight runs the Inner Space Center, and Dwight puts it on the internet.
There is a piece of magic in there that you didn't mention. It's the winch is spinning,
Mm-hmm.
and the end receiving that data is not spinning. Otherwise, you would twist up the cable.
Yeah, that's pretty
How
magic.
does it do it?
I'm still pretty amazed by that.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
So
slip ring.
there's a slip ring in there, and a slip ring is basically you want one. It's like spinning a tube inside of another tube.
Yeah.
So one tube is not moving, the other tube on the inside is moving. Now, how are you going to do that with fiber? Well, if you run your fiber, and then it's actually a glass, fiber quality glass, that makes a ring, and then there's also one for reading on the other side, and so it's a challenge.
Yeah,
It's very hard to get a slip ring to work really well because mainly it's sourcing the materials, because unicorn hair is really hard to find.
You just can't get a good bulk order.
Yeah.
Rennie missed it, though.
That's fine.
Slip rings magic.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible. So we just operate one cable over the side. We just have the 6/8 cable going out through the Shiv, through the A-frame, and down. I guess there are ships that operate dual ROVs off of a single platform, so multiple wires in the water, but they're ships that are like way bigger than us. Like we're talking industry platforms where you actually are running your ships out of a moon pool. So moon pools are holes inside a ship. Interior.
idea.
Yeah, or Baltic
Magically
rooms.
works again.
Yeah, Baltic door or something like that. These are ships with different types of jet pumps and thrusters than us. Different dynamic positioning, stronger dynamic positioning, and
Redundant.
or they could be like ships and platforms connected to a drilling platform or rig or something like that. So you're basically in one place, and then you could operate a couple different ROVs or a couple different wires in the water off of a single thing.
Yeah, multiple wires in the water always kind of freaks me out. The
Right?
Been there.
when yeah, ONC.
We've been there with 2 ships,
there.
stretched with 2 ROVs like close to one another.
The
Friendships.
when I was a marine technician, we had a check form for any scientists who were coming on board, and it was like, you can have this or this, you know, this or this, and everything would inevitably be checked.
I would, yes. Thank you, yes.
Yeah, I was like, I want that and that. I'm like, that wasn't an option. Anyway, they made
they made their own checkbox, like
they
see
made
all
right,
of the above.
Yeah, they made the wonderful point that we had 2 inches.
Mm-hmm.
We had a stern A-frame and a side J-frame. So there was no reason why we couldn't put in 2 things down to 4,000 meters at the same time.
Well, there's
Keep
a
in mind that
reason.
this was about maybe 40 feet apart.
Yeah.
And after multiple back and forths, I said, okay, you know what, we'll just, because I couldn't get the idea across that, like, the cable doesn't just go straight down. Cable does weird things in the water. So we took them up to I took them up to the bridge, and the captain said, oh, yeah, well, we can totally do that. And I was like, you know, like, what? This doesn't make any sense.
You're
He
on
goes,
my team.
he hands him a piece of graph paper, and he's like, if you can just draw it to scale.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you can't draw that to scale.
No. Because you're like just
40 feet, yeah. Well, that was his whole point. He had to freehand draw it to scale.
2 lines right next to each other,
And
then they don't touch.
but yeah, when George immediately said, like, oh yeah, sure, we can do that, I was like, you know, like, I felt so betrayed.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the layback like it's giant, right? You know, we're like, oh, we need to wait for the ROVs to catch up. A lot of layback.
We were like
afraid of these
almost
clips.
half a kilometer
Yeah,
laid
but
back earlier.
But typically, you know,
You
even
know,
the worst will be like 150 or something.
Yeah, we're talking
200.
about like 100 meters
Yeah, yeah.
layback, and we're like, ooh, start to pay attention to that, and we're in 3,300 meters of water, so
little tiny.
it's effectively straight down. You
I've
know?
actually
Tie
I
a
pulled up.
tent. What do people say? I've heard people describe it, and like the analogy sort of breaks down because the scale isn't exactly right. But people talk about like tying a penny with dental floss and standing on the top of the Empire State Building,
or a
and-
washer.
and, yeah, and dangling it down to the sidewalk below and trying to keep strict control of that. And you're like,
If you have a landing or a balcony outside,
Mhm.
it's a really good way to do it with a washer and some dental floss, because then the wind also plays a
Yeah.
role.
you start to get the idea, right?
we have current, which plays a role, but we have no idea what the current is doing until we just know the effect of it.
And it can be doing different things at the top than at the bottom.
And now tie another piece of dental floss to a fly and attach that to the washer. And
that's Herc.
Hercules.
And then send us a video at EV Nautilus on Twitter.
Be careful what you ask for.
I was gonna say,
Email us at
someone's
education at
someone's-
OET.
Someone's definitely going to do it now and send it in.
Did you
Hey,
just
look.
give them Sam's email address?
Sure did. It is. It is Greg. That's with 3 G's. at
All right, man, look at this.
We're
We're doing it, team.
We are dead on
Getting there.
time-wise.
Yes.
55.
55 minutes.
And that gives us a little bit of time to hold at 50 for the changeover. 10 to 15 minutes before we're on deck.
Oh no, Aaron.
So fantastic. So how long does the ascent take? Depends on how deep we were. We were about 3,300 meters, so we're looking at about 3 hours of ascent, rising about 20 meters a minute, somewhere in that ballpark. We are, our instructions are to be back on deck at midnight due to some weather that was coming in. So we calculated that all down based on the speeds and when that meant we had to leave the seafloor. Super great to have you all along with us. Thanks for following along on YouTube and watching us on nautiluslive.org. You can, just a couple reminders of things that are available to you. You can click on our expedition page to get to the expedition map. That's where 10 years, 117 missions of Nautilus around the world are there. And you can click through the map and check out a description of those expeditions, who was on board for each one, some of the results of those missions, photos and video highlights from each of those missions. So you can take yourself on an around the world journey following Nautilus. You can also click on the team page, and that'll show you everyone who's on board right now. You can click in, learn a little more about them, read about their path.
You should ask how your internship went, since the internship application is open.
That's true. Tell me about how your
that way.
internship is going,
Tell
Paul.
us how it went.
I can speak very highly of the intern program. I had applied not knowing exactly what to expect or what I'd find if I got here, but was really excited. And it's just been incredible. I think people are really welcoming. Living on a ship is definitely a transition, but not too different or too challenging. And it is a teaching vessel. Everyone, if you have a question, basically everyone's happy to explain what their job is, what's going on, and try to teach you.
You were muted, and I think that maybe was for the best. I didn't hear what you said. Well, I have to say, Paul crushed it in a live ship-to-shore interaction today, talking with London Elementary School in Corpus Christi, Texas. Really cool. Those kids have been doing some research about different types of careers and how to get involved in them, and so they were really excited to get to talk to an engineer.
And they had great questions. So
I love the questions that that you get during those.
it was a good mix. You know, we got some really technical questions about buoyancy, and then mixed in with the "Have we seen a shark?"
You always get the
How many sharks? Can you show me the picture of the shark? You know,
What are sharks made of?
what are sharks made of?
Shark.
One of the all-time great questions. Yep.
Smaller sharks.
Yeah, they've been doing the sinking feeling activity, which if there are any educators out there or anyone who's listening who knows or loves an educator, we have a ton of free STEM education resources that connect the principles of the National Science Standards and interdisciplinary connections to the work that we do with the real-world applications of how we actually put those science skills and practices into practice here in the real world, real-world applications of this. So all of those are available free. If you click on the education tab, they're there. So there's downloadable data sets and fun activities like the Nautilus coloring pages, all the way up to our standard align provided with rubrics, individual educator and student versions of lessons, big, you know, well-developed, developed by educators who have sailed on Nautilus, resources. So all that's free and available out there. And these students had definitely done the sinking feeling challenge, which is the engineering design challenge to try and make something neutrally buoyant. And they were asking for hints.
When is it when the contest opens up for kids to do the drawing?
Oh, it is open right now.
Is it? Oh, I didn't know that. Well, there you go.
Nautilus patch design contest open right now. So if you know a student, an artist, a crayon artiste, ages 5 to 18, we have a design contest where you could be the person to design the next patch we all wear next year.
There have been winners that are all ages.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, we are not necessarily looking for fine art. We are just looking for great ocean-inspired art. So that is available also on the education page. There's just a few requirements. I think it needs to say 2020 EV Nautilus, and it needs to say Eastern Pacific Ocean on it or something like that. You can print out, we have the big design circles, so you can go ahead and print out the template and let your artist go. Or there's no rules, so you could have, if you're a digital artist and you like to create art that way, you could submit a digital design as well. That is one of the best meetings of my entire year. I absolutely love that
Must be
meeting
so
where we get
hard
to
to
go
pick,
through the
though.
designs. It is, but we also in the contest give honorable mentions in sort of binned categories. So we get to go through, you know, best ages. I don't remember exactly what they are. Ages 5 through 8 or whatever they are, 9 through 11, something.
Well, Science, you seem pretty quiet back there. I'm assuming that you are happy with the 2 dives.
Couldn't be happier. Hey now.
A little tired of the blue water, but
We're doing
I'm
great,
actually
team. We're doing
impressed
really great.
because usually we get abandoned by Science as soon as we start blue water.
No.
They were like, that's an option?
Yeah. I left for a little bit to get some more tea and
We'll
stuff.
look over and like Jamie's just sitting back there by
I know
herself.
Jamie's
and
just
it's
like,
Jamie,
"Hey,
you should come and
friends."
visit us.
Come on up here.
Hey, buddy.
No, it was like nonstop stand-up.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, that's just because Rennie gets less restless legs.
Oh gosh.
So we did not bring any
Yeah,
octopus
bullets.
up with us during the last dive. All of our hangers on decided to hop back off of the
Abandoned
ROV.
ship.
Yeah.
Kathy Offinger. Yeah, there's stuff like that that'll be gone when we have the new vans. It's going to be so weird.
It will be.
I mean,
Chad,
we
you got to
need
get
new
your,
vans,
your kids
but
to draw a design for the patch contest.
Yeah. What are the age limits or groups?
5 to 18.
Oh, it is to 18. Okay. My
Mhm.
daughter's 14 and my
Which-
son's about to turn 10. So.
Yeah, I mean, we've had Gustafer one at age 6, so, you know, it's anybody's game in the patch design contest.
You know what? I think. Oh, Remy's not listening.
Rennie, put on your headset.
Maybe I will direct her. A good idea would be the image of an exploding volcano with octopus coming out.
I'm not saying that I wouldn't be super excited about that.
9,888 meters from the surface.
I'm excited for when
988.
Rennie's kids can draw for us. They're a little young still. But it sounds like Jen, you have some young explorers that might be interested.
She stepped out for a little bit, but she does. She has a
Jen!
couple. I know. She was getting more
Science
tea
did
too.
leave us.
Okay.
We thought otherwise, except
No, I'm
data.
like
Not
not
permanent
observant.
abandonment.
I'm just in a corner and I can't see the whole back row.
And they made me turn away the camera. That's why.
Oh.
Oh.
The ROV can go to 4,000 meters, so we have about 4,300 meters of cable on the traction winch. That was an upgrade from last year to move from a direct drive winch, which looked just like a spool of thread up on the deck, down to a traction winch, which uses a system of pulleys to keep tension on the wire and is also housed all down below decks. So it's been a great change for this year. Oh man, lots of questions coming in. Here's the big one. When will the next dives be? Our next dives, we are anticipating the season launching in June 2020. There's a lot of off-season work and still to be determined about what the opportunities to engage with our mobile system test. That will be just early in 2020, so you got to stay tuned for that. You can subscribe to updates
Is that,
on nautiluslive.org. And
are there plans to broadcast that?
yeah, we're working to decide what that'll look like, but you know, we certainly want to be able to share the mobile system missions, the mobile system test. So we'll just there is the Easter egg. More surprises to come in early 2020 about opportunities to follow along with Nautilus on some new and exciting projects. But we'll return back to this ship and this sort of familiar mode of operation in June. If you just can't live without your deep sea exploration, check out some of our awesome partners. NOAA ship Okeanos Explorer has wrapped up their 2019 season as well, but Schmidt Ocean Institute's Falcor has a few more missions going for the next about a month more of expeditions. So again, that's Schmidt Ocean Institute, and their ship Falcor currently is right in the same area, right? Aren't they out with Mbari right now? Right. Somebody told me that the other day, but I hadn't looked it up myself.
The Atlantis is also nearby.
Friendships.
Yes, it is.
Neat. All right, Chad, what would you say the most interesting sample is that you found during this dive?
The most interesting sample, let's see here during this dive. I guess I would have to say, as far as a physical sample, probably the bone-eating worms. I never thought I would, be on a dive encountering something like that. So it was really great to see it live. I know we're not physically present, but you're not seeing a highlight reel of a 30-second clip. We're there for, we were there for a good 2 to 3 hours. So it was great to be able to pan and zoom and look around it, and then to actually retrieve some of those samples. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about the water chemistry samples too. I wouldn't say I'm excited, Dane, because I don't want to see pollutants in the sediment, but I'm very interested to see what levels
it will be very interesting
of the pops are going to be in the sediment and the water. So, I mean, honestly, I just very, very happy with how this dive went.
Yep.
Awesome.
Well, good. Science being happy is important.
Customer service industry.
That's right.
Greg,
That's right.
viewer very much would like to know, do you have manual control of your pitch roll axis?
No. If I heard the question correctly. That's actually a ballast thing that we do prior to diving. So like right now, I have a slight pitch and a slight roll. That's the roll is at least because of the laterals, but the pitch has to do with basically where the weight is on the frame. If we put all the weight in the front, then we're going to be pitched forward. If we put all the weight in the back, then we're going to be pitched back. And so based on, like in this case, it doesn't matter so much because the next cruise is next year, but I would say, okay, well, we're pitched back about half a degree, which is really not bad. Then I might put some weight, move some of the weight from the back to the forward to get us more level. I actually like to be pitched a little bit like that.
Forward or back?
A little bit pitched back.
Okay.
Because that way sometimes you can just rest that back bar, or like the very back of the vehicle down.
Do you
and
remember
just
the cricket legs?
No, they're not on.
No, but
I do remember them.
remember them?
Yeah, the grasshopper legs. Yeah, but you could just rest the back of the vehicle down into the sediment, and so then you're not going to dust in front of you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Sorry, you were talking about research vessels earlier, and I just pulled up marine traffic, and I knew the Atlantis was going to be in the area. They are just to the north of us, kind of over the northeastern flank of Davidson Seamount.
No way.
Uh-huh. And then the Western Flyer from Mbari is even closer, just to the southwest of us.
It's a party.
Yeah.
Popular spot.
Holy
We got
cow.
all three of us on the eastern side here of Davidson. I don't think I've ever seen that before. That's
No,
so what's
I
Atlantis
haven't.
doing?
Yeah, who's on the Atlantis other than Steve Ostrovich?
Yeah.
Steve Ostrovich and Alvin, I think, right?
Yeah,
Did
I
I
know
hear
that.
that it was Alvin, or did I miss?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Alvin. Yeah, they applied for a permit and all that stuff. They're doing dives out there, so that's pretty cool. I don't know what the Western Flyer's doing out here. I don't know whose cruise it is. I should check their schedule.
Hanging out. That's so cool. I mean, earlier this season, for reference, like, that's nuts that these other research organizations are, you know, just within a few miles. Like, earlier this season, we had lots of times when the closest other people to us were in the International Space Station.
Only
as the
when they
space
were
station
overhead.
buzzed. Yeah,
Yeah,
buzzed
only when
through,
they're
right?
overhead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but as they circled by, those were our closest people.
Someone was it
Wow.
Falcor? Or someone was off of Hawaii when we were off of Hawaii too. It's crazy.
37 minutes to the surface.
30.
Team, we've done
yep.
so well.
That'll be good.
Thank
We'll
you
pause
for your support.
right on time.
I know, but we're so close to hitting exactly
But we might pause
11:45.
11:45 because that's to surface.
I know,
not to
but I'm
50.
going to have to slow down just a little bit when I go in the other direction.
We'll see.
It's very difficult to get this when you have 3,000 meters to show up on time.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't
Ready?
even show up on time and I'm a few decks below.
You're like, I live 100 feet from here. Rennie
that's why
just
we
lives in
started
the corner.
summoning you.
We've made him a fort.
Paul goes down to the winch room
Yeah.
and high fives the Bobby Argus hand 5 times. 5 times? 3 times. 3 times.
Which is probably on the floor at this point. 'cause no
It's
water.
in the bilge water. It's
That's
swimming.
how I-
Bobby
that's-
Argus is swimming.
It's fair.
Sorry, Megan, what?
Viewers want to know a weather report. Now, let's go to Renato with the weather. Renato?
Wind is down
Yeah,
before
lull before.
the lull before the wind and swell picks up. And so it's around 10 knots of wind, and the current's at about maybe half a knot or so. But it's supposed to pick up, and what we saw when we were on the previous cruise is when it picks up, it was super sudden. We were actually only at a few hundred meters depth, so we were able to recover quickly, but we kept kind of pushing the envelope and realizing that the wind's coming down, it's totally fine. And then very suddenly, winds picked up, swell started to pick up. We got on deck and we probably had about an hour to spare before it would have been a really difficult recovery. And then it only got worse from there. So as we were seeking shelter in Drake's Bay. So we don't want that to happen this time, and we're being cautious
See
about that
blue?
to make sure.
That's that
So right
calm that
now
we're in right
we're
now
totally
before
fine.
this
It's going to
pressure
be a
wave comes in.
great, safe recovery.
The pressure wave's not super bad there, but as you go over, it gets, yeah. I'm guessing 2 o'clock. Oh, that's that's 6 a.m. So yeah, I'm guessing we have a couple hour window, and then it'll start to build quickly. But if we went until like 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, then it would be, or after breakfast, or even sunlight tomorrow morning, it would be too much to really want to recover. And we don't want to do a recovery at night in rougher weather.
Yeah, 4 a.m. would have been a gamble if it was at night.
I'm gonna be like 2 minutes off, Rennie.
What is your preferred weather forecasting app, team?
There's a couple that we use. Passage Weather is really great. I like that because it has classified bands of
Stuff.
either wind or swell. And then the other that is popular and has great GUI interface is Windy.
GUI interfaces.
Yeah, GUI interface, I guess. So it would be a GU interface. Graphical user interface.
Interface.
GUI interface squared. But I find it more difficult to discern some of the color band, the difference in the color. I like because the model's only so accurate anyway, so seeing a classified, this will be between 20 and 25 knots versus a shade of rainbow, and trying to figure out what that actually means.
Well, they go from small to like, for waves at least, you know, it's like the color change between 2 to 6 is not a lot of color change.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a huge difference.
We were
in
just looking.
meters
We were
for
just looking
swell.
at a graph too that was like in feet, and it was like 1.6, 2.5, 6.5, and then it was like 25 was the next unit on their
Yeah.
scale, and I was like, well, we're somewhere between the 6 and 25, and it's a pretty big jump right there.
But the great thing about that is that you can put in your exact lat long, and it's,
Yeah.
but they're all pulling from the same models, really.
Yeah, so windy sometimes gives you that false sense of security because you're like, oh, I know exactly what's going to happen right where I am.